December 18th, 2023. One of the greatest basketball players of all time is lying on an operating table, about to lose nearly half of his kidney. But here's the thing.
And so what I had on my kidney was a cyst, a tumor.
Dwayne Wade had no idea he even had cancer. For months, rumors swirled about what was really going on with the Miami Heat legend. Fans noticed he looked different. His social media posts seemed more reflective. Something had changed about the man who once dominated NBA courts for 16 years. What we discovered will shock you. This isn't just another celebrity health scare. This is a story about how a routine doctor's visit turned into a life or death situation that Wade kept hidden from the world for over a year. Hold on for just a moment before we continue. If you're enjoying this content, I need you to do something for me. Smash that like button and hit subscribe. Here's a crazy stat. Less than 2% of you actually subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to us creators. Go ahead, I'll wait. Done? Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, where were we? Let's go back to when this all started. Wade was 40 years old, retired from basketball, living what seemed like the perfect life with his wife Gabrielle Union and their blended family. But something wasn't right. It started with the bathroom. Wade noticed his urine stream wasn't as powerful as before. Sometimes it came out slow, weaker than normal. Most guys would probably ignore it, right? But Wade also started experiencing stomach cramps and pain that he couldn't explain. Now, here's what makes this story even more intense. Wade had completely stopped getting regular checkups after retiring from the NBA in 2019. Think about that. Here's a guy who had team doctors monitoring every muscle, every joint, every heartbeat for 16 years of professional basketball. Then suddenly, nothing. But there was one thing that changed everything. Wade's father, Dwayne Wade Sr., had been battling prostate cancer. Watching his dad go through that struggle hit Wade hard. It made him realize he needed to take control of his own health. So Wade makes the appointment. He walks into his doctor's office and says something that probably saved his life. "Doc, I want to know everything about my body, head to toe." He explained the stomach issues, the urinary problems, everything that had been bothering him. His doctor recommended a full body scan, not just to check his prostate and stomach, but everything. Here's where the story takes a terrifying turn. Wade went in worried about his stomach and urinary issues. But when that scan came back, his doctor called with news that would turn his world upside down. She expressed to me that it was very early, but they thought they saw something on my kidneys, Wade later revealed. I didn't go in for my kidneys. I went in to check what was going on with my stomach and my prostate. Can you imagine that phone call? You go to the doctor for one thing, and they find something completely different. Something potentially deadly that you had no idea was growing inside you. The doctors found a tumor on his right kidney, about 3 centimeters in size. They couldn't biopsy it. Surgery was the only way to know if it was cancerous. Now put yourself in Wade's shoes for a second. This is a man who built his entire identity around physical strength. He's Dwayne Wade, Flash, one of the most explosive players in NBA history. He's had surgeries before, sure, but those were on knees, shoulders, things you could see and understand. This was different. This was inside his body, something he couldn't control or fight with pure willpower. Wade described the mental struggle. "I've had surgery on my knees, I've had it on my shoulder, but it's something that feels a little realer when it's inside your body." The doctors explained the stakes. If this tumor was cancerous and they didn't act, it could spread through his kidneys, then to his lungs, and eventually to his brain. Wade knew this wasn't something he could ignore or tough out. December 18th, 2023. Wade checks into the hospital with his wife Gabrielle Union and his father by his side. Before going under anesthesia, he made himself a promise that would change how he approached the rest of his life. "I remember telling myself, if I do come out of this, you know how I'm going to approach life, how I'm going to approach every day. I'm going to live for the 24 hours. The surgery took hours. Doctors had to remove 40% of Wade's right kidney to make sure they got all the cancerous tissue, nearly half of an entire organ, gone. When Wade woke up, the pain was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Remember, this is a guy who played through countless injuries, who was known for his toughness, but this was different. That moment was probably the weakest point I've ever felt in my life, Wade admitted. I think it was the first time my family, my dad, my kids, they saw me weak. Think about what that means. Wade has 5 children. He's always been their hero, their rock. Now they're seeing their father, this larger-than-life figure, struggling just to get through each day. As a man, you never want your family to see you weak. You don't want to be perceived weak, and you don't want to be seen in your weak moments. But I had to. The vulnerability in those words is heartbreaking. Here's someone who spent his entire career being invincible, suddenly faced with his own mortality. But here's the part that will give you chills. When the pathology results came back, the tumor was indeed cancerous. If Wade hadn't gone to that doctor's appointment, if he hadn't pushed for that full body scan, this story could have had a very different ending. Thank God that I did do the surgery because the tumor was cancerous, Wade said. So I have 1 kidney and I have another kidney that is 60%. Now here's what makes this story even more incredible. Wade kept this entire ordeal secret for over a year. While fans were wondering why he seemed different, why his social media posts were more reflective, he was quietly fighting the biggest battle of his life. Think about the strength that took. In October 2024, Wade was honored with a statue outside the Kaseya Center in Miami. He looked healthy, happy, celebrating one of the greatest honors of his career. But inside, he was still processing what he'd been through just months earlier. It wasn't until January 30th, 2025 that Wade finally shared his story on his podcast, The Why with Dwayne Wade. More than a year after the surgery, he was ready to talk about it. Why wait so long? Wade explained that he needed time. Time to heal, time to process, time to make peace with what had happened. His wife, Gabrielle Union, put it perfectly. He was smart to delay talking about his diagnosis and the surgery for over a year to give us all a little time to make peace with it and let all of our very intense fears kind of dissipate a little bit. Today, Dwayne Wade is cancer-free. The surgery was successful and he's made a complete recovery. But this experience changed him in ways that go far beyond the physical. Wade spent countless hours journaling during his recovery, thinking about what he wanted the next 40 years of his life to look like. The man who once lived for championships and accolades now lives for something different: presence. I needed to sit down and think about my life, think about where I was and where I wanted to go, what was important, what wasn't important, Wade reflected. He's become an advocate for men's health, encouraging others to get regular checkups and not ignore warning signs. Wade knows that his story could save lives, because early detection saved his. His message is simple but powerful. Don't wait. Don't ignore your body. Don't let pride or fear keep you from taking care of yourself. So what really happened to Dwayne Wade? He faced the fight of his life. Not on a basketball court, but in a hospital room. He went from being one of the strongest athletes in the world to feeling like the weakest person in the room. But through that weakness, he found a different kind of strength. Wade's story reminds us that health doesn't care about your fame, your money, or how many championships you've won. It can happen to anyone at any time. The difference between a story of survival and a story of tragedy often comes down to one simple decision: the decision to see a doctor when something doesn't feel right. Wade made that decision, and it saved his life. If this story inspired you or taught you something new, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories you won't hear anywhere else. And remember, your health is worth more than any trophy.